to the webinar. Oh, this meeting is being recorded. Thank you very much. Good to know. Welcome to the Live Work webinar. But it's not just a Live Work webinar, it's a RGF webinar and a TheyDo webinar. So much appreciated for our colleagues joining us on this, and hopefully it's the first of many we get to do with our partner TheyDo, expressing to the world about the power of journey management and how to embed that into your organization. So I guess before jumping into it, there's a little bit of sort of housekeeping I wanted to do to sort of let everyone know the flow of things and how it's going to happen. We won't keep you online forever. It'll be around about 30 to 40 minutes. We think there's enough content to probably spend an hour, but we want to be pointy and useful and valuable to you guys. So we'll try and keep it to 30 to 40 minutes. We have prepared some slides in that regard, so they're more talking points. And of course, the program will be completely recorded and available through the LiveWork Studio website and also through our social channels, and we'll publish it again so that people can catch up and see things. The opportunity is to ask questions, so please do. This is going to be a sort of reportage style, so we'll be interviewing the panel about their experiences of deploying TheyDo and what that's been like. And then from a LiveWork side, it's going to be our opportunity to sort of share the connection between RGF staffing and TheyDo. Finally, whenever you do ask questions, just accept that we probably won't get through all those questions in the chat, but we will, after the event, go through each one and answer them personally so that you get a response and hopefully get the answer that you need. So let's get started. This is the big question as to why we are here. The why we are here is quite straightforward. And as you can see on the screen, we have Corinne Venkenbach from RGF Staffing. It is totally her fault. There is no other reason for the other three people being on this call other than Corinne and her boss, Mike. And it was their ambition to adopt customer centricity and then their realization that they needed to embed that as a standard day-to-day practice using journey management to facilitate the changes they needed to do. So even in that statement alone, that sort of sets the scene of we're trying to solve a big problem here for a large institution. But before getting into that, it's probably important for everyone to sort of share a little bit of who they are and what they were connected to this program. I'm going to assume that most people will know who LiveWork was because we did most of the invites for this event. And likewise, TheyDo invited a lot of people as well. So it's likely that people will know TheyDo. It's less likely that people will know who RGF Staffing is. In fact, Yelta and I, before we started working with Corinne, we had never heard of this organization. But once you get to see them, you'll realize that they're quite a large institution. So Corinne, if I could ask you to sort of introduce yourself as well as introduce RGF Staffing, that will be a great way to sort of start the presentation. And I'll tab through the slides on your behalf. So would you like me to step forward?
Sure, go for it. Hi, everyone. My name is Corinne Venkenbach. Thank you, Joe. I'm very excited to be here. I love everything I've learned in the last year about journey management. So I'm really happy I'm able to share a little bit with you. So yes, I work for RGF Staffing as the global head of enterprise digital programs. So who is RGF? And honestly, Joe, before I started working there a couple of years ago, I also said, who is RGF? And I think the reason is because we're known by our brands in all the countries. So RGF Staffing actually is the fourth largest staffing company in the world. So we are very big. We're spread around the world, located, you can see here with the orange icons. We're headquartered out of Japan, but we have lots of locations in Europe, the US, Australia, New Zealand, and a couple in Tokyo as well. But our headquarters is in Almere, Netherlands, which is just outside Amsterdam. I'm American, have worked there for a few years, but have lived here in Holland for over 20 years. So who is RGF? We have approximately 275,000 people at work at any one day through RGF Staffing. We have about 20,000 employees, and you can see here in our last fiscal year, we reached just over 11 billion in global revenue. So it's a big company with a lot of operating companies, but we will tell you a little bit more how we approached journey mapping and management with this structure, with this mammoth organization in a few minutes. Back to you, Joe.
Much appreciated. It's almost like we practiced this, Corinne. I've no idea if anyone's going to spot that. So just going back to the slide above, I would like to take the opportunity then to introduce Ting Ting from TheyDo. Now, Ting Ting, because we've got a lot of people on the call, it might be worth just giving a little bit of context of TheyDo as well from your side. But yeah, it'd be great to understand your role in this program too.
Right. Thank you, Joe. So TheyDo, we are a SaaS company. We are still a startup, but we are at we just got investment for Serial A+, and we got well, I think 30 million of investment. So we are a small and mighty startup. We are now around 80 people in the company, and we focus on one important thing, that is journey management. So that is us, and I have been with TheyDo since last February, and I'm a principal journey management coach there, and my role is to help our customers to get the best value of the software, and I do it by training and coaching. And we'll tell you more about it later on. Thank you.
No worries. I can't believe you've only been in the company since February last year, but how old is the company then? It's 4 years old?
Yeah, around, I think it has been, well, it has been around with the co-founders collaborating in this area for many, many years, but the company has been established, I think, a little bit around the 2020 or 2019. So the company has grown really like rapidly since last year. And when I joined, there was like 22 people, and today we have 80 people. So you can see the speed. It's really catching up these 2 years.
It's like journey management's important or something, but on that
Yeah,
note,
I would imagine, yes.
on that note, Yelta, over to you. What's a little bit about Live Work and just your role in this program too?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Yelta Timmer. I'm a lead service designer with Live Work, and we do a lot of work helping organizations understand their customers, understand and define better customer propositions, and as well as a lot of programs designed on helping organizations on their way towards becoming a more customer-centric or design-led organization. So we've done that for quite a few organizations, and that's also kind of how we got involved in this collaboration, basically to support in the transition, in that transformation to becoming more journey-led, more customer-centric, and doing that through the tool of TheyDo. So we already knew TheyDo. We also encounter it in many more places these days. So that says something. And we started working together to basically look at how can we use that tool as a vehicle for that transformation to become more customer-centric and work with journeys at RGF. So that was our role in the program.
Oh, that's a lovely segue into the actual depth of this. Just for the sake of clarity, I'm Joe Trainer. I work at Live Work, but I'll just be emceeing. So I will only be guiding the conversation. I don't have much contribution. So moving forward, and then back to Corinne, if that's okay. I want to open this slide because this is the talking point of where this all began and how it all began. And there's many attributes to this, and feel free to just to give the moment it's needed in relation to helping people understand how you started in this, how the CX program was part of your business objectives, how your customer centricity initiative and your CDX strategy. This world is not new to your organization, so embracing that and doing all that, I think that's really important for people to hear about. So if you could share that journey that you've been on, that'd be great. Is that how it all started?
Of course, of course. So like I said, RGF is this big mammoth organization around the world, and we have 11 operating companies, but we have operating companies that are very decentralized, meaning HQ doesn't instruct a lot. We guide, support, and motivate, but they run it themselves. So we were thinking, we had a new program from our chief digital officer, and he brought me on board to together try to figure out how to, from a headquarters perspective, work with our opcos on CDX. And you see a logo here. What is CDX? It's about CX, so customer experience, data, so everything around data strategy, data mindset, making decisions with data, and therefore enabling all of that with DX or digital transformation, or having the right technology in place to do that. So when we looked at our 3 pillars of helping our operating companies wanting to get ready for the future, we really wanted to focus first on CX, because we thought that was one of the big entry points into how we would help all of our operating companies. But we also had this challenge. We had many brands, I would say 5 to 10 brands per operating company, customer types, different unique selling propositions. So we were thinking, how can we start to build our CX capabilities, our strategy in the right way? So this is when we started thinking about journey mapping, journey management, and what this world is all about. And it still is quite a new world compared to, let's say, marketing or one of the more traditional functions. But we knew there was a lot of value in understanding the experience our customers went through. When I say customers for us, we have 3. We have candidates, so people who want a job. We have clients, so we have people like Amazons and Fiats and the car companies who want workers to work for them, primarily temporary workers. And we have employees, so the people who help service our candidates and clients. So we had 3 things to think about. All these companies. So how in the world are we going to start with journey management? So we thought, let's build a global template. Let's get some of the opcos to pilot with us. So 6 operating companies or opcos wanted to pilot with us. We selected about 20 champions that we would work with to do a couple of things. So our point was to first map the end-to-end customer journey. So end-to-end is a big thing for us to understand that entire, and you see, I'm going to almost say process because that so rolls off my tongue so naturally, but Yelta is laughing because I want to say now experience. One of the big learnings we had is this is all about the experience. So we first wanted to understand what this was and put it in one place. Also, we wanted to understand the impact or be able to show the value, because it's great to do it, but if you don't have people understand how it helps improve the customer experience, improve our business value, it also doesn't matter. So we also had that as a very important thing to do. And then also to think a lot more about management. So how to continually improve the experience, but in the right way, in the points that mattered the most. So this is where we started. And just to tell a little background story is, the CDO, my boss, Mike, was researching. We had our first CDX conference and all the opcos came together to discuss how we were going to put this program together. And he had researched what kind of customer experience tools, customer journey tools there were. And he kept saying, there's this tool called TheyDo, and I really want to use it. And a lot of people had no idea, but then we decided, okay, let's give it a try. So we contacted TheyDo, and we actually just decided to get started. Let's build a global template on our own, not having a lot of foundation or background. And I know Ting Ting will know, as she's worked with us during this process, is there are a lot of ways to do this. There are a lot of options and ways to put it together that can mean a lot in different ways, but we didn't have all of those things figured out yet. And so we did try as a group of 20 champions with a lot of advice from TheyDo to get started on this journey. But then after a few months, we came to the realization that we needed a bit more. We needed some training, some coaching, some better understanding, so we could, when faced with the decisions on how to best map our journey, we could make good decisions. And that's what TheyDo had recommended to us. That we work with some partners, we looked at all of them, and we definitely chose LiveWork to help us bring this together. Maybe Ting Ting, you want to say a little bit something?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Corinne, for segue into this interesting topic. So maybe some of you have been, well, I think all of you have been working with many SaaS products in everyday work, but I would say TheyDo is a little bit unique or different as a SaaS product because we are opinionated. As you can see on the slide, we believe that journey management is a way to have the best business impact in your transformation. So that's why our products are actually designed and organized around the theories and the workflow around journey management. So in addition to the product itself, it's not like you buy a product and then you can succeed with it, especially not with TheyDo, because when you benefit from the support of our customer success and myself, journey management coach, that's where you get the best value, because then you can also get the best practices from us to understand how you actually can practice journey management in your organization. That's number one thing. And number two is how you use the features of TheyDo to really scale your journey management. So we have, of course, rich experience across industries and geographic locations, and very suitable for a company like RGF. But on the other hand, enablement at TheyDo, like journey management coach, my job is a little bit different than a consultant's job, because we can give the best practices in general and link it to the product features like I just mentioned, but we are not able to, we don't have the resource to really do the work and do the content for our customers, and especially for RGF. Like, I think you need a really strong kickoff with very solid contents as a global template that need to be created before it can be scaled to different opcos. So in this situation, we think to have a strong partner like LiveWork that has a lot of experience in actually doing the work across different companies will be essential. And I'm really happy that, Corinne, you've made the decision to take in a partner in addition to the software.
And I do just have to pipe in and say, Ting Ting, the software of TheyDo is super simple and easy to use. But like you said, it's the structure of how you put it together to make it work for you. So I don't think TheyDo is daunting in itself, but it's the approach and the structure that you have to figure out to do in the right way, right? So, and that's where LiveWork comes in, the magic that they added to the partnership.
Oh, bless. Like, it's almost like a wonderful thing. Yeah, I think they've done your job for you, but if you just want to add to, the slide sets the scene. It says driving, empowering, and scaling, right? It sort of sets the scene. So, we were having a chat in preparation for this before, you were saying about, people just can't embed this software and hope they're suddenly tomorrow going to become customer-centric experts, right? It's just not a thing. So what's it been like for you, sort of, and our role in this to sort of structure, scale, and approach?
Of course, we were the last ones to join the power trio, but I think it's been a really nice collaboration, and I think what is amazing and what they'd already recognized, that like the tool is not kind of the only thing you need, right? You need to do a lot of hard work to embed this in your practice, and that's also how we try to approach this. So of course, journeys are a great thing, but to start working with journeys, we know that that's more than just journeys, right? You need to approach that as a change. So that's also how we try to look at this, as more of a design-led transformation. And we try to look at what are the elements that you need for a transformation. And the tool is a vital part of that. But kind of being able to embed that in the context of the company and try to make all of those 1,000 choices, like, oh my God, where do we start? What do we use the tool? What do we map under our journeys? That was, I guess, really the important effort where we needed to collaborate and put a lot of hard work in, together with all of the different operating companies that bring all of their expertise. So we did a lot of work in trying to bring that together to a cohesive framework that both is kind of recognized on a global scale, but also be able to flex locally. So we had to kind of go back and forth to make that possible. And we really looked at what are the elements that we need in this to connect to the organization. So you need to go deep and understand what is important to this organization. How do we link it to these elements of digital transformation and data, so that this becomes a useful tool that's fitting with what the company wants to do, rather than just doing journeys because journeys are so awesome, which they're pretty awesome, but in and of themselves, they're not going to drive a lot of value, right? So we really needed to look, how do we integrate it and how do we connect it to everything. That's kind of how that works at RGF. And that's, I think, where it was really nice to be able to go in deep together with the team, and where we saw a lot of commitment also from the different people in the organization to make this work. And contribute, I guess, to that shift in mindset, where Corinne already very nicely noted that we went from looking at processes towards looking at experiences, and how those are facilitated by processes. So I think that kind of signifies already a lot of how far we got in that journey.
And
So-
Yelta, I think too, sorry, can I just add one thing? As I think we also figured out, we thought when all the operating companies came together, everybody really came to the table saying, I'm so different. Like, I'm not sure a global template, we don't work globally at this level, you know? So I think there's a lot of doubts. And as the process went on, we figured out with the expertise of Yelta and Chelsea and LiveWork and how they worked with us to come up with a global template. Everybody at the end said, we are more alike than different. And I think that in itself was also a learning for us, that template, like the way you can work in TheyDo and the way you can map these and therefore manage them can be done at a level where it's works globally. And for us, that was a big learning that really helped us set the path going forward. Sorry, Joe.
No. We should just finish there. It does globally. Job done. So I'm just thinking of, in relation to, we've just been talking for 15 minutes and all we've got is the history, right? We haven't even started on the project of the program. And I think realistically, bringing these things to life a little bit about the journey we were on together and the steps that we took. Because if you think about it, Corinne, we started on, I think it was like the 14th of October or something like that. That date sticks in my mind for some reason. And we're still on it, right? We're not done. We're not done. We're in Japan now, as you know. So maybe Yelta, this is a moment for you to sort of break down the steps that we did in that sort of 5 to 6 month program and sort of share some of those activities and those. I know we had it sort of broken into 3 boxes, those areas that focused on. So maybe it's worth sharing a little bit of detail on that.
Yeah, so we started thinking about what are the different elements that we need to establish journey management as a practice. And how we typically look at that is that we split it up in a couple of boxes, more around creating the right foundations in place. So that was really about working together to have that shared perspective of what our journeys are, how do those work on a global level, how can we diversify them on a local level, what are our shared elements and what are our more specific elements. So that was more kind of our foundational piece of work to set in place the right type of structures. But we also needed to complement those foundations with a lot of more kind of training on the skills and mindset, because when working with these different people from across the organization, we also noticed, well, we're coming from basically a bit more of an IT background. We have an IT crowd that's very much used to thinking in processes where input goes in, stuff goes out, and we have to map all possible variations. And you can't really do that if you look at an experience. You can't try to map out all of the different variations of reality because you get stuck. So we really needed to shift also the mindset of, hey, this is how we work with journeys. And in working with journeys, we need to make together the decisions that really help us reflect that from an outside-in perspective and also make the decisions that make this manageable, right? So a key element in our work was also, let's try to keep it manageable. Let's not try to map everything, but map where it makes a difference and where we can actually make a change for the business. So that was all right on the skills and mindset. We also did a lot of work on more kind of adjacent skills, because it's not just a journey, but the right stuff has to go into the journey. Oh, where do we get these insights from? How do we do research? So there's a lot of connected practices that you also need to invest kind of time and thinking into. And finally, and I think maybe the most important element is really about the coaching, is about embedding it. So building that culture, building that mindset, which we worked on heavily together, really is about seeing how this works in the context of your situation, of your company, of your decision-making structure, to think about, hey, we have a journey, but how actually, where does change come from in our organization, in our part of the organization? And how can that journey play a role in that? And if we try to implement that change, what do we need for that? And who makes those decisions? And how can we basically insert a bit of that journey, a bit of that customer-centric thinking one by one in that process of decision-making more. So I think this is really where kind of the tool starts kind of integrate into the organization. And that's also a journey we haven't finished yet, but where we've made great strides and we've seen so much change with the ambassadors of the program that went from what are journeys exactly? What's this TheyDo thing? To being totally bought into this and being really, huge supporters.
That's fantastic. So I said something earlier on, Ting, about TheyDo, and if you sort of think historically of other software vendors, and apologies for using that sort of generic term to describe you guys, because I know there's much more to you than that, but you know, normally what happens is that the client buys the software and the partner comes in and goes, what do we do with this? And you've run off to the hills, but that's definitely not been our experience in this. And I know, Corinne, you know, from the moment that we got together is like, they do need to be in the conversation in the regular cadence of meetings and the regular retrospectives and the regular updates. But what do you think your role has been throughout this sort of journey that we've been on together with RGF?
Yeah, thank you. If you go back one slide, I just want to add one point to continue the point from Jelte. Yes, so as you see, for TheyDo, we are software for when the customer journey is your #1 product.
Mm-hmm.
So this when comes after some time, right? So exactly, I think we can leverage our partners like LiveWork to help our customer to go to a certain maturity level that can benefit from the best value of our software. But as you asked, Joe, as an enablement or coach from TheyDo, we of course also focus on journey management. But what's the difference? Like we actually, what are the similarity and differences working with our partners, and why are we working with the partners? And first of all, I think TheyDo and our partners like LiveWork, we share the same goal to deliver sustainable journey management solutions to our clients. And then partners like LiveWork, you bring a breadth of industry knowledge, especially like on this particular industry. And we are more a generalist in a way that we know the high level best practices of journey management. And then you bring the processes and change management experience to help facilitate the implementation and adoption of journey management itself as a way of working. So you are kind of elevating our customers to a certain maturity level. And then we can chime in to validate those frameworks and practices you have set up or you have planned together with our customer. Are they actually compatible with our software features, with our product features, so that you can get the best value in this way? So we work really hand in hand to enable our customers together to use Journey as a way of working. And ultimately, we help them to improve and provide better customer experiences towards your own customers, Corinne, as well. But the difference here is also a consultancy agency like LiveWork, you work in projects. So you help the customers at a certain important stage of their growth. And then as a software company and the support and enablement team, we are really always there from onboarding and throughout the whole relationship. As long as you're using the software, our team are always there to support you. So that's one slight difference. And also how we collaborate with LiveWork, I think a key is to also validate and support and always exchange ideas to make sure it is also future-proof when you are bringing in more users and adding more content into TheyDo after LiveWork has ramped down the project as well. So we are then kind of working hand in hand in order to make sure it's sustainable for our customer.
So I just had a question come in there I thought was quite pertinent from Mike, who asked, I'm just going to roll back to it for a second, and said, you know, it would be great to actually hear the details of the actual project. So Jelte, it might be good just to explain like what you did. Like you set up interviews, you set up steer codes. It might be good to sort of just explain some of those items that we did to get some detail.
Give a brief summary of quite a long and intensive engagement. But where we started is to really look together with the different operating companies across the globes into how their journeys look like, to be able to abstract that up to that idea of a global framework. So the global framework basically consisted of both on the candidate and the client side of 12 to 14 journeys that were shared across all of these global operating companies. And for these journeys, you could think about the journey of I register and apply for a job. So basically stuff that's replicable across the globe that has a set of similar steps, even though some things might be slightly different. In the US, they don't use contracts, they use agreements, or people just get placed on jobs. So they approach that a bit different. But on the high level, these steps were all the same for all of them, for all of these journeys on a global level. So that was what we're able to extract with them, to give them a shared framework to talk about the customer experience, to have all of these 13 journeys, for instance, on the candidate experience for them, that they were similar and they had a shared structure in terms of steps, as well as swimming lanes in terms of what do we map under our journeys and how do we do that, and how do we define an insight. How do we define a customer pain? How do we build on that to create opportunities and define solutions? So we had a similar structure that kind of really brought together that customer perspective with the opportunities you can generate from that and kind of the solutions you can plot against that. That really was a starting point for us, that kind of foundational piece of creating a shared structure that then also allowed them to even go a level deeper into specific sub-solutions, what we call level 1 and level 2 journeys, where we would allow them to say, okay, on this level, for instance, how we deploy specific functionality in the US market, that's going to be a bit different. So that's where we allowed actually for more variety to say, on this level, on the level 1, we have a shared structure, but on the level 2, where we go into more details and look at how somebody applies a CV in the US market or signs up for a job alert, that's where the stuff where we're not going to stick to kind of that global where we're going to divert a bit more from that global template. So that's a bit more about how the structure that was in place, and we use that structure then to work together with the operating companies to also start training and coaching and start working on different elements of those journeys that were selected by them as kind of areas of high impact. We really want to fix that kind of onboarding journey. Oh, we really want to fix a part of that registration and apply journey, to really map it out in detail together and see what kind of what were kind of the challenges that they run into, and how they could start learning actually to map and manage their journeys, and to see, oh, where does the data need to come from in order to populate this journey? Oh my God, we don't have that. Okay, we need to set up research. How do we do that? So we could use those practical use cases to run into kind of all of the practical challenges and solve those together, and then also start asking the questions of how do we set up the governance around that? So how do we try to work this into how does decision making in your operating company work, and how can we look at where these journeys basically can be forum to have a discussion on what to change and what not to change. I hope that can give a bit more definition, and Corinne, feel free to pitch in with some additional.
No, please, Corinne, it'll be worthwhile. And just on that, while you're thinking about that answer, contributing to that answer, Corinne, just if you add a little bit of color about the journey to get people from newbies to champions, that might be also a bit of an addition to that.
We really did prepare this well, Joe, because it was something I was going to say. So I think what I wanted to add too makes that point. So I think what was really interesting in the way LiveWork did it is they brought our champions of our opcos through the process. So they said, first, take what you have. Do you have process maps? Do you have anything on customer journeys? Let's bring it to the table. And as a group, let's try to break that down and see if we can try to come up with, like Jelte said, 10, 12, 15, what were ended up being 12 and 13 steps, I think, in each of the journeys. What are the generic steps that the customer goes through in this experience? And by doing that process together, everybody participating was able to see how you go from a process or an inside out point of view to an outside in point of view. And that building structure, and then alongside, they also ran training for us, nicely condensed like our training. So we started to understand what it takes to have an outside in view, and how do you view things differently. And then we started to work with TheyDo as well, because then we started to input that into TheyDo, and like Jelte said, populate what was in TheyDo. So what are the actual activities a customer goes through in each of the steps? And then what are some of the insights, the pain points, the challenges, the opportunities? And together we did that. We worked together. And I think that process helped including then the coaching, because the coaching then was, okay, now here's your template. Now you have to fill it out, but hey, we are going to hold your hand because it's hard to get started. But once you get going, you can do it. And you have live work to help answer those questions. And that people really did say, I mean, we had some doubters at the beginning, like, oh, someone kind of told me I need to do this, so they weren't full in, but at the end they would say to us, Corinne, you don't have to sell me on it anymore. I'm a believer and I want everybody to know about it because this is the way we need to make decisions. So I think they understood through the process, but it did take some time.
We're getting sort of people are very interested in the conversation and they want to see the software, which is interesting, and actually see the journey framework, which is also interesting. But something tells me, Corinne, that you might not want to be sharing your RGF global. It's a resourcing template which could be applicable to any resourcing company, obviously, but that's kind of something that you've invested in, spent time investing in building.
But TheyDo does have some generic stuff they can share on that. That's how we got trained originally as well, is by looking at, then it helps to at least bring to life how it works.
Yeah, and so and we unfortunately won't have time to jump into the software today, because I think there's a lot of the sort of context of today is to understand the next part, which is the challenges and learnings that you would recommend specifically, Corinne, to people who've actually been through this journey. And it's amazing how quickly this time flies. We've already done 35 minutes. So
yeah, but Joe, I just wanted to say, if anyone is interested in taking a look at TheyDo, you can reach out to me and I can show you anytime.
Exactly. And more sales pitching in a minute from thinking. But no, absolutely. And so I feel like we've understood a little bit about the practicalities about what we did, the protagonists that were involved. But Ting, you said something which is connected to the learnings, which is really the last section we wanted to get to with. And Corinne prepared this slide, which is kind of like a cheat sheet for anybody that wants to nick this and and take it on board as effectively Corinne's brain, who's been in this word for the last year or so. So I think this is a useful story for you to talk about. But before doing that, maybe Ting, you said something which is slightly elevated above the practicalities of these things you need to do and the learnings you've got to get from this program, which was to do with trust. Because one of the big values from this experience was the trust that you said was important. So it'd be good to hear a little bit about that from you.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is actually essential for the success. And as maybe some of you experience, it's not always easy, the partnership between a software company and a consultancy agency, because we could have been overlapping in our skills, in our advices, but in this program, we are really, really trusting each other, and we're transparent between each other. So then we can always agree, like, what are the shared responsibilities and how can we help our customer in the best way. For example, Jelte mentioned you have done a lot of in-depth work to understand the context of RGF. And then from our point of view, we also have a checklist of the structure and mechanism for you to succeed in journey management, especially using TheyDo. So we are comparing and checking these points together during the validation process. For example, the global framework that you have created, we are trying also whether we already have a product feature to support this. And if not, actually, this is very important. We are also learning from the practices, both from customer and from our partners. So we are giving input to our product team. And we are growing our product with the feedback of our customers and our partners. So that helps all of us to grow together. And we also learn from approach point of view, how to best help our customers and what part of coaching and training are best to be provided by TheyDo and which part is best to be provided by the partner. And as a result of many of these practices, we are now also streamlining our coaching and onboarding process. And we are having a self-learning TheyDo Academy, for example, to help our customers to do it in their own time, in their own in their own way. So it's much easier than having 20 people in a meeting for 2 hours going through the training and discussion. So yeah, we are also learning a lot from this collaboration, and I really appreciate the trust and transparency between the 3 parties.
I can agree with that. I know Yelta does too, because we also had a lot of fun. But like you said, we also had, it was a lot of learning. Not everything just came together overnight. It was sometimes thinking, working through it, working back and forth, challenging each other on how we could do it in the right way to make sure it's not just the mapping you think about. You think about really how am I going to manage that? How am I going to work with this every day? Because sometimes the tendency is like, I want to put everything in. I have so much information. I want to fill up this step with lots of, problems, lots of solutions, lots of opportunities, but that's not also the approach. So it's good to work together with your partner, especially if you haven't done this before. So there is a balance so you can use it properly in the future.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I'm just conscious of time, and I've got a few questions coming in about various different specific things, which we might take offline and have a chat with people. But Corinne, and actually both Yelta and Ting Ting, if you could just think about what would be the one thing you would say to people who are going on this journey, right? If you look at that. But Corinne, if you could sort of think about that, but I would like you just to spend a bit of time just describing what's in front of us here on the slide, because I think this is a really powerful piece of content that I hope people have screen grabbed.
Yeah, it is the learnings that still are in my head. I think, I tried to be quick, but I first start with committing the right team. And I think that's really important. Yelta mentioned this started out of kind of what was seen as an IT initiative, but this is a business initiative. You don't understand and change the customer experience by just working in your own team. So it doesn't really matter where it starts, as long as you put the right people together when you start the mapping. So mapping is number one and then managing is where you really make it part of your everyday, where I say in the middle, the magic happens. But think about getting the right people around the table, a cross-functional team to do these journeys together. And what we made the mistake of is what we're doing differently. And with this Japan piece of work is the people who started as champions were doing this on the side of their day job. And maybe it starts that way before you have an organization that supports this a bit more. And that was okay. But if you do, it's best to try to get them all in a room working together for a condensed period of time to get the end-to-end map together, because then you can learn how to manage and use it as a part of your everyday. But this is part of it takes time, and we wouldn't have been able to do that at that point. But now, since we've learned, we're doing it with another operating company in Japan, and they did over just 6 weeks are mapping their entire end-to-end journey for a client, which is amazing in itself. But get the right information in. When you think about journeys, don't just think about customer experience, think about data, because data also needs to work to help you evaluate and make the right decisions. So think about how to get data into your journey. Start simple. I think we've talked about this a few times. Don't think you have to cure the world and have to have everything in there. Get something to start with, and it will start to come alive. The second thing on the top is build value. This is a challenge, because when you start and management doesn't fully believe in it and the team doesn't fully believe in it, you have to have something to show to prove the value. But start to think about it at the beginning. And what really worked for us is we ended up building a value case template in a workshop around, once the basics were in the journey, how can you go through it and find some quick win solutions, but also some, let's say, shorter term, but like customer changing real experience things, improvements we could make, and bringing people through this process to help show what value could come out of journeys. And then we could showcase that to the teams and to management. And also, when you start journeys, think about, before you improve something, how it relates to a business goal. So it has to relate to the customer, but also to help the business. Sorry, Joe, I'll go quickly. The last one in here on the right side is, don't underestimate the mindset change, because it is a different way of doing things. So find those champions, educate those champions, remind them pieces of learning, little newsletters, little communications to keep the thought process coming. It's brilliant to see what happens when you start working across teams. Everybody was working in a silo. You see a journey, and and they figure out that they're a lot of times working on the same improvement or a different approach to an improvement. And if you bring people together, it's all these aha moments, these light bulb moments. And what I think I really walk away from now, which I didn't know a lot about journeys when I started this process, is what I say in the middle is really my takeaway is I am an advocate now for using journeys as a key reference point when making business decisions. We should not be making any business decision without at least consulting the journey and understand if the improvement or change is going to help improve the customer experience in the right moment, in the most critical way. Sometimes we think there are tons of improvements you can make, but do they make a difference to the customer enough that it's going to really make an impact on the business? And I think that's that magic piece of where journeys really come to life in your day-to-day. And I think Joe Ting Ting and talked about the partner bit, so I will pause there.
Good. Ting Ting, any sort of final comments from you on what you would like people to take away?
Yeah, I think Corinne has talked most of it. I think if I summarize, it is think big, start small, and scale fast. That's something we want to quote all the time when we discuss with customers. But also, like from TheyDo point of view, we think two things are important in journey management transformation. One is a structure. That is the content of your journey hierarchies, your templates, your building block definitions, and the chain between insight, opportunity, solutions, of course. But then the other part is also important. That's the governance part. That is a mechanism, how you operationalize journey management. So we learn in different customer contexts that you can start anywhere. It's not mandatory that you start with a structure and then start to roll out the governance. You can also start small, like Corinne mentioned. You can have a small project, have the enthusiastic champions to start with one journey or one scope of the journey and see through the end-to-end change and show the value before you expand. Or you can also, at the same time, if you have resourcing, especially like a good partner like LiveWork, to help you to build out the global template that could be a standardization applicable across different opcos. That is, of course, also very important part. So these two parts, they can be in different sequences. They can be workflow first, then workspace later, or you can have the standardization of workspace first, workflow later, or you can do them in parallel as well, according to your context. And that's the most important thing.
Good enough. Jelte, you can have the second last word because I get to have the last word.
Well, I feel there's already been quite a lot of last words, and I really loved Corinne's summary. I think there's not much to add to that rather than to reiterate what has already been said. But I think one of our key learnings with the program was that we don't have to do everything at once. We can look where the energy is in the organization and try to surf that wave to create change on the basis of the journey and the structure that we create. That really helps us to show, hey, this is how this can be a valuable tool for the organization to basically drive and implement change from a customer-centric perspective. But we really need to look at where is kind of where can we spot the opportunities for change? Where are things already moving on the organization, and how can we piggyback on that to show kind of the value of this approach as well? I'll keep it a bit short.
Good. Well, listen, I'm going to, from what I've read from the notes, people wanted to get more into the detail of seeing things. So I think, firstly, this is hopefully the start because, you know, strategically speaking, the partnership with TheyDo is important for LiveWork. So I want this to be more than just this one event. And I think it would be necessary if we do it again is to get the software open, get into it, start to noodle and nerd out on it so that people can see its reality and it's touch it and feel it. And I think that'll answer a lot of some of the questions that we weren't able to get to on this call. More importantly, I'd just like to thank Corinne and Ting Ting and Jelte for joining, specifically Jelte, who had to fill in for one of our colleagues who couldn't make it today. And so he stepped in at the 11th hour. So it's like he had all these answers already prepared and nailed it really well. So much appreciated, Jelte, for that too. But ultimately, the thanks and respect is for the success of the program, because we love working together. It was, you know, you could tell for the enthusiasm and the sort of camaraderie we have that this has been been a joy. You know, it's been great doing it as the threesome of the three companies coming together. So, you know, ultimately, hopefully it's the shape of bigger things and more things to be done. But yeah, I just like to ultimately leave it there and thank everybody for joining, and specifically everyone staying on 15 minutes longer than we thought they needed to. So that's much appreciated. Take care, everybody. And if I haven't finished answering the questions, we will get back to you soon enough. Thanks very much.
Lots of fun.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Joe. Thanks, Livework.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.